My name is Misbah. I lead partnerships at Wakelet. Wakelet is a tech startup based in Manchester, so just around the corner. And what we do is we allow people to bookmark the world's information, organize that information into beautiful looking collections, and then curate it at their own context, their own unique view, and then share those collections with the world. I'd like to start by asking you all a question, and if I could get a raise of hands. How many of you in this hall can remember a particular piece of content that you saw on social media last week? Okay, for like one or two maybe? It's surprisingly difficult, right? And we touched on this just briefly. The information that we tend to consume nowadays is very short form. It's very clickbaity, it's very single serving, and almost feels as though long-form content is in short supply, right? Meaningful content is in short supply. And we have all of this short-form content across the web that's competing for our very narrow attention spans. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Wakelet and what we're doing to help change that. So just to put things into perspective, these sites here and the internet as a whole, it helps you find the world's information, right? And a good way of looking at Wakelet is that it enables you to organize the world's information. So bookmark it as you find it, organize it into collections, and then share those collections with whoever you like. So what's the issue that we're facing on the internet at the moment as a whole? So 30 years ago, the web simply didn't exist. 20 years ago, there were only 2,000 websites in total across the whole internet. Google didn't exist, and you had to pay for an email account. And 15 years ago, Skype, Facebook, YouTube, Reddit, and all these social media platforms that we use every day also didn't exist. And if we look at the humble beginnings of them, this was the Facebook page when it first came out in 2004. I'm not sure what Al Pacino is doing in the left-hand corner there. I don't think anyone ever found out what that was. We've also got a masterclass in design. This was Twitter's first homepage. We've got YouTube. And it's really adorable when you look at it because they're giving away a 4 gigabyte iPod Nano every day for the entire month trying to get people to use the platform. Imagine that. And then, of course, a great example of ugly duckling syndrome. We've got Amazon.com, the big behemoth, right? Fantastic design. It's amazing to see how far things have come. And since then, a lot has happened. We recently passed 1 billion websites in 2014. And now, coming on to 2019, we're really close to 2 billion. Over 2.5 quintillion bytes of data are created every single day. And if you don't know what a quintillion is, like I didn't, that's 18 zeros after the 1. By 2020, it's estimated that 2 megabytes of data will be created every second for every single person on Earth. And to top it all off, 90% of all of the data and all of the content on the internet right now was created in the last 2 years alone. So we're not heading for information overload like a lot of people believe. We're actually already there. And what this does is it leads to content overload, right? And in the past, once upon a time, big organizations like Disney and BBC and CNN, they would create content for all of us to consume on the internet. And now they're actually competing against us. We put out more content every day than they could dream of. And we've become creators, we've become publishers. And although this creates a fantastic amount of opportunities for us as individuals, it also contributes to the amount of content online and adds to that noise. This leads to a web that is a whole bunch of really disconnected information across so many different social media platforms. And it's spread all over, and when it comes to content, it feels like we only experience the tip of the iceberg sometimes. And that's largely down to the way that search engine results are displayed and also the algorithms that go into our news feeds. So how can we connect these pieces of disconnected information together in a way that educates us, inspires us, and moves us? Well, we could use algorithms, AI, and machine learning, and we are doing that at the moment. And these are fantastic pieces of technology. They help us process information really well and index and create patterns, but they can't tell stories, right? They can't connect information together in the same way that we can as humans. They can't moderate content and tell what's illegal or what's false. They don't move us, and they can't tell what's true and what's fake. I'd like to share a little experience that I had with everybody. A few weeks ago, I actually visited the British Museum in London, and it's a fascinating museum. I'd suggest everybody go there when you visit London. It's incredible. The exhibits they have are amazing. Surprisingly enough, it wasn't these huge sculptures from ancient times that really moved me as a human. Instead, it was these quiet corners of the museum, right? Which kind of gave you a real good idea of what life was like in 300 BC. And these corners of the museum were filled with utensils from that time and clothing and jewelry and all these things that made you feel like you were really there. Now, individually, these items by themselves, sure, they're interesting, but it's only when a human being curates them and puts them together in one place that they actually tell a story that can move you as a human being. So at Wakelet, we're trying to bring that element into the internet, human curation. So Wakelet provides an easy and complete way for people to save, organize, and share the content that's most important to them all in one place, right? Algorithms do a great job of this. Algorithms do a great job of indexing that information and creating patterns. But human beings have to step in when it comes to telling those stories. So if you take a look at something like moderation, if I go back to the last slide here where we say, that AI and algorithms can't moderate either, right? So Facebook, a quarter of the world's entire population is currently on Facebook. That's a heck of a lot of content that's being pushed online every single day. Some of this content is illegal or inappropriate, and it may breach community guidelines, right? So Facebook have tried using algorithms to discern whether or not this information or this content is breaching these guidelines. But what they've had to do is actually open up a team of thousands of people in the Philippines who every single day go to work, and their job is to go through every single piece of flagged content on Facebook and then figure out whether it's illegal, whether it's inappropriate, and whether it breaches the community guidelines. This becomes really difficult because, like we were mentioning before, certain cultures and certain countries, some things which may be inappropriate in one place aren't in the other. So human beings have to step in and do these tasks. So how are people currently using Wakelet? Well, at the most basic level, Wakelet allows you to bookmark content, right? So we've all been online, we've all used these social media sites, and every now and again we find a piece of content that moves us or that inspires us that we'd like to share with our friends, our family, and our colleagues. In the most basic sense, Wakelet just allows you to save that information. And once you've saved enough pieces of these content, you can actually create a collection out of them. And once you create a collection, you can curate them. So you can add your own thoughts, your own text, images, your own ideas in a way that really tells a story. And this leads to some amazing use cases that we've seen over the past couple of years. Newsletters in schools, student portfolios, digital storytelling assignments in schools and universities across the world, project work, personal development and resources, the list goes on and on. I know many of you are here from businesses as well. It's not just individuals who are using this human-curated platform, Wakelet. It's also businesses and organizations. So businesses like Experian, Microsoft, Rotary, Barcelona, the list goes on. These businesses all share a common problem. And that's that they are creating so much content every day, and so much content is being created about them every day. And all this content ends up online, and it's all over the place on so many different platforms. What Wakelet is allowing these companies and organizations to do is to capture this content as it happens, repurpose it if they want to, create collections, add their own stories, their own experiences, and then repurpose that content and share it with the people that matter, stakeholders, their own customers, consumers, and that type of thing. So let's imagine that there is a university student called Phil, right? And Phil is doing his thesis on climate change. And we've discussed climate change quite a lot today, so this is quite befitting. Most of the time, a student like Phil will go to Google and type climate change in, right? But that brings back 670 million results. And, you know, these search engines are like, we did it in 0.33 seconds. That's great, but I'm never really going to go to page 18, 19, and so on and so forth, unless I'm super obsessed about something. And if you look at this front page, a lot of the time the results displayed on search engines, especially on page one, they're SEO optimized. They may be trending, so an algorithm may have brought them to the front just because, you know, it's trending news. And it becomes very difficult all of a sudden to discover research and do that digital research that we were explaining before. I like to think that nowadays most people tend to use search engines as a way to find out how to fix my laptop, or what time is it in San Francisco, or where's the closest Nando's from here. And it feels that when it comes to actual digital research, people are looking for alternative ways to do this. So Phil is a real person. He was a student at Manchester University, and he did do his thesis on climate change. And when he found this problem, when he experienced this problem whilst trying to do his research online, rather than just saving all of the content that he found online into a Word document as a hyperlink or emailing it to himself, he was like, hold on a second, I'm going to repurpose this. I'm going to make it more interesting, more engaging. I actually want to do something good here. And I want to be able to share this research with my colleagues and with my teachers and with the university. So what he did is he created a Wakelet profile. This is a Wakelet profile that you can see here. It's super easy to create. He added a background image, a description about the page, a profile image. And those boxes you see at the bottom, those are collections. And if you can see at the bottom, I'm not sure you can see it, it says 46 items under the first one, 24 items, and so on. And this is what the collections look like. So you have mixed media, right? Rich mixed media. You've got a YouTube video here that you can play in line. You've got his own images that he found, and you've got text and also articles that he found on his travels as well. And what he's been able to do is take this content, and instead of it being individual, isolated bits of content on a page, he's been able to organize it in a way that not only makes sense for him and helps him with his digital research, but also helps students that come after him. So the university is actually using this, this climate change profile now as a way for students that have come after Phil to say, hey, you can go into no man's land and do that research if you want on Google, but you could go here and get a head start and help you understand a little bit more about these subjects. And the beauty of it is being put together by somebody who's passionate and somebody who's really gone to great lengths to finding that good content. And it's not just for research either. So this is the Wakelet page for the Business of Science Conference, and we're all here. This is actually the third year that the Business of Science Conference will be using Wakelet to curate everything that happens in the conference, right? So we've all been to conferences before, we're all at one now. And I know from personal experience, what I tend to do is I go to a conference, and I end up coming back with a few business cards, some decent ideas, and then I sit in the office and everyone says, you know, how was the conference? And I say, yeah, it was good. Got some business card, made some connections and that type of thing. What I'm able to do now is after this conference, I can show all of my colleagues exactly what happened at the conference. There's so much amazing content that's happened right now, today. So many amazing opinions and resources that have been shared and connections that have been made. It kind of fizzles up into nowhere, but what the conference has been able to do is curate all of this content into one page where after the conference, everybody can come to and find out exactly what happened. You may have missed a few breakout sessions. You'll be able to find it on the page. You may want to share this with your colleagues so they get a better idea of what happened at the conference. All of a sudden, it makes that conference experience a lot more rich. And individuals as well, now whenever I go to a conference, I use my Wakelet app to curate everything that's going on at the conference. My LinkedIn contacts that I've made, if I've seen everybody taking pictures of slides today, drop those into a Wakelet collection. When I get back, all of a sudden I have something tangible that I can share with my colleagues and come back to again and again. This is an educator. So this is a professor of food technology at the University of Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia called Professor Kareem. And again, he's using Wakelet to share his individual research because he's an expert in all the subjects that he teaches. He's using his Wakelet profile to share this content with his students, right? So again, instead of sending the students off and saying, go off onto wherever and just do all of this research, instead, first of all, he directs them to his Wakelet page. And he says, the units that you've been studying, you'll be able to find information on those units that I've handpicked that will give you a real head start when it comes to doing your own personal research. So all of a sudden, it becomes a lot more useful for a student because instead of going by themselves and doing that, they actually have a place that anchors them to the things that they want to know. So what's the future of search? I've obviously spoken a lot today about algorithms and AI and that type of thing. So you can search for individual links, and these are displayed generally on items of 12 across many, many different pages. And eventually, you'll be able to search for any search term and instead receive collections of content. So rather than 10 million individual links, you may get 10,000 collections. The difference is that these collections have been put together by a human being who's been able to thread this information together in a way that makes sense. It's a lot more useful. So I'd like to leave with one thing. The very areas in which humans struggle, right? So things like processing vast amounts of information in seconds and creating patterns and things, the very areas in which humans struggle, algorithms and AI pick up and they're amazing at, right? We can't compete. But then the very areas in which AI struggles, which is making that emotional connection and telling a story and threading pieces of information together in a way that makes sense, human beings are actually really, really good at it. And the very technology that we've grown to love and almost worship sometimes makes us critical of the very things that actually make us human. We're incredible. We have some amazing skill sets that are very unique to us, very distinct. We believe that it's only by combining the skills of algorithms and machine learning and that type of thing with humans that we can create a richer and more meaningful web for everybody. So I'd like to lastly end with just this very small segment, stay human, because we're awesome. Thank you.